All right. Well, hello, everyone. It is me, Rashi. We are talking about something that is been in the news for years, but there's been some recent developments. We're talking about the possibility of the Texas Education Agency, the state, taking over Houston Independent School District, the largest school district in the state of Texas. And I understand that there have been other takeovers across the nation, but not at this scale. So there's been a lot of concern, people from both sides. And I've been talking with teachers, specifically the Houston Federation of Teachers, the union there, and also with teachers in general. One of the people that we're going to be talking to is Daniel Santos, who has been a middle school teacher at Navarro Middle School for more than 15 years, also part of the union, and then also the president as well. Now, before we begin, I do want to say what recently just happened. I would believe about an hour and a half ago, Millard House II, who's the superintendent, he did speak, and he did say in part of his statement saying, I remain laser focused on fulfilling my duties as superintendent alongside our board of trustees to provide the best possible educational outcomes for all HISD students. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in both of my guests for today. So thank you so much, Jackie Anderson on your top right and Daniel Santos on the bottom there. So first, Jackie, I'm going to ask you as the president, what do you make of this statement by Millard House II?
Well, I'm not surprised. He's been a superintendent with much integrity. When I spoke to him earlier this week, he conveyed to me the same sentiments that he has a job to do and he intends to do the job that he is being paid to do until he can no longer do the job.
And you hearing about this, what was your reaction with the most recent rumors? Because there hasn't been anything that's been said by the TEA.
Absolutely, Rashi. There has been nothing definitive, and he also conveyed that to me. Until we get official word from TEA, what we're hearing is just rumor. This is not our first time hearing this. In 2019, we were threatened with a state takeover on the pretext of one failing school. That school has since come out of IR status and has moved forward along with 40 of the other 52 schools in HISD that have come out of IR status. So the district is showing much improvement. So I am really disappointed in this position that the TEA has taken. But let me say this, Rashi. This is not about what's best for schools. This is not what is best for children. This is a takeover for political gains, power, and money. And our democracy is at stake. This is tyranny. This is exactly what this is.
And I want to bring in Daniel Santos to this conversation because I was speaking with you earlier, and you were talking about how this is at worst also sort of a racist move.
Yes, it's and I wasn't being hyperbolic. I referred to not only a study from 2021 from Brown University and also Professor Domingo Morel, a book that he published a couple years ago, citing this pattern that 2/3 across the nation of state takeovers of public schools occurred in districts that primarily served Black and Brown communities. And the study from Brown University from 2 years ago also raised the concern that parental power, political power, is eroded in those communities. And so that's the other concern that Jackie Anderson also had raised. Is we have witnessed this. It's not an imagination. Beaumont, for instance, ISD. Recently, a former superintendent, a board trustee, Mr. Daryl Antwine, also cautioned how a state takeover can dilute the power of parents and how a potential board of managers would not reflect community voice. So we have seen this played out in Texas, and we have seen it across the nation. And so we hope that the commissioner, Mike Morath, will listen to the community and invite authentic community input and reflect on what's best for our students. And I think that's what we agree with Mike Morath, is we want the best for our students, for our communities, but we absolutely need our parents to participate, to be involved, and respect our parent voice, be transparent, make that decision rather than just keeping it vague and raising the anxiety to different levels.
Just being devil's advocate on the other side, Chris Holmes saying this, hopefully this happens. HISD has been a terribly run district for almost a decade, and those children and families deserve better. And when you talk about something like that, I know there are many people who have the same sentiment. And it's not just, we're talking above the teachers, the people who run the district. I know that there's been some, controversy there as well. So what is your response to that?
And I welcome those different perspectives. So thank you, Mr. Holmes, for sharing that perspective. And I think it's also important to understand the other perspective that we have seen for the past 4 or 5 years, an improvement in our schools in terms of the letter grades, many of them moving from D to B. The district itself is B+, which is better than Dallas, better than San Antonio, better than El Paso. So looking at the evidence, I think we should contrast that with the perception that we think that HIC is not doing well. It is incontestable that the letter grades at the school, 96% of our schools are doing very well. So I think we should reflect on that perspective and weigh the consequences based upon the historical pattern of other state takeovers, and especially at Beaumont ISD and North Forest. So different perspectives, and that is what a community-driven school district needs, is allowing that input. But when we have board managers that are brought in and dilute or erode community voice, then individuals like Mr. Holmes or myself would not have that opportunity to have that creative engagement.
Now, I know, Ms. Anderson, you have been a teacher for 33 years. Right now, Daniel, I know you are a teacher at Navarro Middle School, have been for more than 15 years, and you have seen, basically, for lack of a better term, like on the ground, taking that school, helping take that school go from a D to a B, which is huge, a middle school there. Tell me about that process and why you think locally that was something that could have been done versus the state coming in and doing it.
So absolutely, and Madam President Jackie Anderson would also echo this philosophy that we embrace, is that communities, we should trust in our communities to find innovative and solutions that are unique to the challenges of those schools. So for instance, in my school, based upon feedback from the community and surveys, food insecurity was an issue. So we encourage a community council at our campus. We encourage bringing in the Houston Food Bank and having our students participate in that effort in order to address the food insecurity, those non-academic needs. We invited community members, pastors, to offer after-school tutorials and even clubs like a chess club and mentorship. That's the best solution to the challenges that some of our schools face. It's much more nuanced and complex than using a blunt tool like a state takeover. Trust in our parents, trust in our communities, trust in our stakeholders who are in that community, who know us best to be able to help our students. So I think, and I'll give the floor, I apologize, President Anderson, but she is one who has been echoing this for many, many years. Community schools are the best solution to the challenges that we face today.
Absolutely, Daniel. And I won't expound anymore because I think you did an excellent job in describing what we have to offer our children. We just need support. We need the support of the state to give us the funding that we need so we can address the needs of our students emotionally, economically, and physically. You cannot teach a child who has a lot of emotional baggage. Those are the needs we need to meet every day. And then we can focus on educating the child, the whole child.
I just on a personal note, my my husband, there's a kind of thing that they do at the school district that we're at where the fathers can come and volunteer. And so he volunteered for the day actually today. And he was like, I feel so bad because there were some of the kids who were acting up, but then they came to him and they just wanted a hug. Or and you could just tell that they needed something more at home. And they're acting up, obviously. And like, it was eye-opening for him. It was heartbreaking for us. But like, there's only so much that the teacher can do. Teacher seems overwhelmed. Obviously, the child acts up, so they put him to the side, like, and they're not getting that love and attention, and even in some cases, the food to be able to have that stable foundation. So just on a personal note, that was just so, I know we've done stories on it and everything, but when you kind of like have that perspective, as you both have probably had time and time again, it's like, it's all about the children. And
I'm so glad that you shared. I apologize for interrupting.
No, it's okay.
So I am so glad that you shared that experience, because that is just a microcosm of what happens in a community school when the doors are open to the parents and to stakeholders that want to support students who have those non-academic needs. And that is my greatest fear. Our greatest fear is if a board of managers are appointed next week, as the mayor had alluded yesterday, that those 9 board managers may not reflect those values of our community, may not understand the nuance of a community school or what a community school should look like, and may not even come from the community school. Thankfully, the board of trustees currently, many of them who have been vetted by the community, who voted and who elected them because they represent our values in our communities, I think we should allow HISD to continue on that path of improvement that we have seen since September, when we announced, despite the pandemic, that we saw dramatic increases in scores and progress in the community schools, like in mine, from a D to a B, but also addressing those non-academic needs and creating that hub that our community most desperately needs.
And in addition, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just want to piggyback on what Daniel said. In addition to that, our duly elected trustees live in the districts that have voted for them and placed them in the power to serve and represent them. A board of managers more than likely will not live in those communities. So they will not be aware of the challenges of the individual communities or the districts that they serve in. It is very important for a person that is serving the community to know what it is like to live in that community. So they have the pulse of that community. And when they do, the people that elect them can hold them accountable for what is happening and the decisions that they make. With a board of managers, we will not have that opportunity. We cannot hold them accountable. They are beholden to the person that appointed them, which is Mike Murray. So
I think we're having some connection issues.
So yes.
Oh, okay, you're back. You were saying who was appointing the members?
The board of managers will be appointed by Mike Morath, who is also non-elected and was appointed by the governor. So he is beholden to the governor. The board of managers will be beholden to him and the governor, not the constituents of the community.
And I that's a good point that you make there. Just a microcosm of, what, as Daniel, you were speaking about living in the community. I mean, I think I was just, when you're in the community and you see the children or whatever the need is, it's like, I want to help out even more because I'm in it. It's my community. I've had that direct contact. So I can understand what you mean by people living in the community that they are trying to help, because that I feel could possibly be the most effective way.
And ironically, this this moment of this moment that we're facing, the state takeover, will give an opportunity to the community to demonstrate how much they love their community schools by engaging even more with our state officials, with our elected officials, with our trustees, with the governor, with the education committee, with Mike Morath, and sharing with them that local control is the best way to solve some of the challenges that we face in our unique communities. I think I'm hopeful that more and more members of the community and other stakeholders are realizing the threat that we're facing and the possibility of change that would be disruptive and destabilizing, and hopefully will step up in these coming days and raise their voice and remind the governor that we have the same goal. We want to improve our students' lives and their education, but we need to trust in our stakeholders, our parents, our community. Give them the chance and give them the opportunity to finish that progress that we have already witnessed so far.
I do want to share, it's a pretty lengthy comment, but I think it's impactful. Samuel Wilson here saying HISD is not terribly run, however it is terribly funded. It is not getting equal funding across the board as other school districts. This has been this way since my mother, Joanne Chase Jones Williams, served as the president of the PTA beside Dr. Rod Page. She had to get the surrounding churches and community leaders to back her initiative to get funding to update literature and advance curriculum needed to get our students on the same path as those in the suburbs. So what's your reaction to that? Because it seems like Mr. Wilson has this perspective from just previous years and kind of the pattern that they're seeing.
Right. And thank you, Mr. Wilson. I again, I honor different perspectives and I welcome that. That's the beauty of the democracy that we see in our schools and our debates with respect to public education, and why we want to keep local control because of those challenges. And I completely understand, because I experienced that in the 15, 16 years that I've been at my campus, the inequity in funding. But because we have we have trustees who are elected, we as community members and stakeholders, we can engage and we can hold them accountable and begin to speak up for our schools and the inequity that we see. For instance, in my campus for many, many years, I think Mr. Wilson mentioned the literature and books, I think if I recall, or the lack of. My campus for almost a decade didn't have a library until we began to speak up as a community and begin to sound the alarm that we would like the investment in Novato. And now we have a library. So because of that engagement, and I fear that with a board of managers, 9 people who don't represent our communities, who may not be sensitive to our needs, may not be as collaborative with our needs or responsive, I should say, to the concerns that we have with respect to inequity in funding or resources, etc. So I think, ironically, this is a moment where it can galvanize the community and show Mike Morath and the governor that we still believe in our public schools, and we still share the same value that our students deserve the best schools, but also that it takes a village, as one would say, to help raise the child, and it takes all of us to advocate and to demand that equity in those schools that have been historically underserved.
But let me add to that, Rashi. When we talk about funding, let's talk about recapture. Not only are they underfunding our district, they are taking back money from our district to fund poor school districts to the tune of $1 billion or whatever. So if you want to talk about funding and how we are not properly funded, they need to stop taking the money that they are taking from us and recapture. But that's a whole nother show.
I was just going to say, I think we've already talked 20 minutes, but I really appreciate both of your perspectives, and I hope to talk to you again soon possibly even next week if we find out more information coming from the Texas Education Agency. But I know that right now everyone's kind of on pins and needles to figure out what is going to happen. So I do really appreciate your time to speak with us this evening.
And thank you for this
inviting me.
opportunity.
You're welcome. Well, thank you all for joining us in this edition of Parent to Parent. I know there's so many opinions on this, and honestly, the fact of the matter is we just have to wait and see what happens and then kind of go from there. So we'll definitely be doing that and keeping you posted. So you can always go on our website. We have up-to-date information there as well, fox26houston.com. So for now, we will see you next week. Thanks so much.